Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the GD Report. I am D,
And I'm G.
and we're excited to be back with everybody. Hope everybody's staying safe, and hope everybody, if you celebrate it, we hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend and that you're not too stuffed or too sleepy on tryptophan from the turkey and got all your shopping dreams to come true. The Black Friday specials have been going for a few weeks now. It's no longer a day. Cyber Mondays tomorrow. So I'm sure there'll be a bunch of stuff that you have to have and that you can't possibly live without. You get all kinds of deals.
Right.
So that leads us to G-Man with what's happening in the news right now, and probably be a one-topic episode this time
Yep.
because we have a lot
This
to
is
talk about on this particular topic.
yep.
And that
This is
really
huge.
is, we could call it a lot of things, but I'm going to give it the header, the future of our democracy. And I know people like to say that with hyperbole a lot of times, and they like to really kind of hype that up and say, "Oh, this is the most important election of our time." And we talked about that in the lead up to the election on November 3rd, but we're seeing it in action now. We're seeing
Absolutely.
the very foundations of our democracy be challenged on a daily basis. So, why don't you update us with the latest of what's happening with the current occupant of the White House refusing to concede the election?
Right. Well, Trump has said that if the Electoral College votes and they vote for Joe Biden, that he will peacefully leave the White House. Now, couched in those words are if. And so, one thing that happened this past week that really alarmed me, and I'm really concerned that no one in the national media is reporting this or has figured it out. But I believe I have figured out what Trump's strategy is, and it all starts in Pennsylvania. So uh, Trump lost Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, Wisconsin. It's all in Wisconsin, not Pennsylvania. So Trump lost Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. And now he's trying to take 238,420 ballots that were cast in the November 3rd election in just two counties, Dane and Milwaukee, and those are predominantly black counties. Overwhelmingly black majority in the population, and he wants to have those thrown out. And if he's successful, I believe he will take that strategy. Now he's already lost in state court, and he's going to take that strategy to the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court sides with him, as I believe they will, by a 5-4 margin, then he's going to take that and go to Georgia and Pennsylvania and Michigan and try to get those votes overturned to give him enough of a margin to have the electoral votes in those states awarded to him, and he'll be the president.
So, what you're saying, you think the strategy is, and by saying you think, I know you're basing that on the fact that they filed lawsuits to do this,
Right.
is they don't want to recount the ballots. They don't want to look at particular ballots. They want to throw out the sum total of those counties as far as mail-in ballots go.
Yes. Well, what they're trying to do is disqualify any votes that were cast absentee in person. And that's also known as, what most of us call early voting, in residents who identify themselves as indefinitely confined. So if you're in a nursing home or assisted living facility and you just can't get out and make it to the ballot box. So those are the votes that he's trying to disenfranchise.
And that would give him more than enough to win Wisconsin.
Yes.
Got it. So, in stating all that, what's your thoughts on that? What do you? I mean,
Well, I tell you, it sends a shiver up my spine when I start to think about it, because if you connect all the dots, so they rushed the Amy Coney Barrett nomination through, and then Amy Coney Barrett and the four conservative justices sided with the clergy in New York to lift the COVID restrictions that Cuomo had put in place. So there's the foundation for the voting bloc to side with Trump. So now you've got 5 conservative and 4 liberals, and I know my liberal friends are scratching their heads, going, "What 4 liberals? We lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg." But and I pointed this out to friends for a while now. Chief Justice John Roberts has sided with the liberals over the last 2 years about as often as he sided with the conservatives, and so he was the 4th liberal vote, if you will, in the New York case. And I believe that those 4 liberals will vote against Trump, and so then you're left with, are the 5 going to vote with Trump like they did in the COVID case in New York, or are they going to go and is one of them going to grow backbone and basically say this isn't right and we've got to do what's right for history and vote like the voters expect them to?
Yeah, and probably the biggest potential, if it got to that point, would be, as far as appealing to reason, would be Neil Gorsuch.
Yeah, which is a Trump appointee.
Maybe potentially Kavanaugh. Gorsuch, and this is totally gut instinct. So based on the decisions that I've read and the rulings, Gorsuch seems to be a little less. What's the best word I'm looking for? He seems to act a little less like he owes his seat to Trump than Kavanaugh does. I mean, Trump obviously came out during the Kavanaugh trial and said, oh, the accusations are baseless against Kavanaugh, and I know what it's like to be falsely accused and blah, blah, blah. And so Kavanaugh probably feels a little bit like he owes it to Trump. But the whole point of a lifetime appointment, which you and I have debated on whether that should happen or not, or whether that practice should continue. But the whole point of the lifetime appointment is supposed to be, once they're on the bench, then they can rule and not worry about any favors that they owe anyone.
Right.
It is alarming to me that so many political norms, ethical norms have just been bulldozed over the last 4 years. And now we're seeing the foundation of our elections being bulldozed.
Right.
We've talked about this before, at least in our pre-shows, if not on the air. But I heard another senator, Roy Blunt, alluded to this today and said, well, that the president-elect is just a name that's an arbitrary title given to someone. There's nothing official anywhere in the Constitution about president-elect. And he also, and this is the part that I know it chaps your hide and it chaps mine too. He said, in the history of our country, the media has never selected a president-elect before. And we both know the history shows the Associated Press has been calling the elections for years.
Yes, almost 75 years almost.
And because we didn't have a way to count the ballots.
Right.
And people forget that the inauguration used to be in March as opposed to January.
Right.
So there was a whole lot more time because you didn't know how the election had turned out. They had to count the ballots and then horse and buggy those ballots to DC or Philadelphia or wherever they were going at the time. And so it's, there's just so many norms being blown over where they're saying, oh, there's election fraud. Oh, these ballots should be invalidated. And they literally have no proof. The only basis that they want to have the ballots thrown out on is the fact that the majority of them didn't vote for Trump.
Right. Well, and in the Wisconsin case, Trump even told a crowd in Wisconsin that, quote, early voting begins on Tuesday, so get out and vote. And now,
so it's okay if his people did it.
Right.
If he would, I guarantee you, he wouldn't be fighting for those ballots to be thrown out if he had won the majority of them.
Right. And if you look at, like I said, these are 2 counties where the majority of the citizens are black. Part of the recount he's asking for in Georgia is Fulton County, where the majority of the citizens are black. I mean, it's just a blatant racist attack from somebody who will stand up and stare to the camera and go, I'm not racist. Well, pardon me, to hell you're not. You're the racist in chief.
Yeah, and it's, the thing is how many more times are African American voters going to have to deal with their votes being disenfranchised?
Right.
I mean, they've tried for years through through Reconstruction, through Jim Crow, through the poll tax, through literacy test, through on and on. Even in Georgia, and I think that's probably what perplexes the Republicans so much is you think about all the shenanigans Brian Kemp pulled in Georgia 2 years ago, and then
Right.
this year, and they still lost the state.
Yep.
They still lost it because the power of the voters, and the voters stood up. And once again, we're going to have to stand up, and we're going to have to demand that all the votes be counted. And you'll hear them use. I heard Mike Pence say this the other day, which he's been relatively quiet, by the way. We may have to have a whole other episode where we talk about Mike Pence and Mother and why he's being so quiet.
Right.
But I heard him say all legal votes should be counted. They throw that little word legal in there because they want to insinuate that mail-in ballots are legal. They want to insinuate that absentee ballots in predominantly African-American communities are illegal. They want to just insinuate that, oh, there's all these illegalities. And we saw what happened in the recount that cost them $3 million in Milwaukee and Dane counties. What happened? Biden ended up like 100 votes more.
Right.
So he actually gained votes when they did that recount.
Right. But if those votes get thrown out, then Trump's going to be the winner of Wisconsin. And you watch, he'll go to Pennsylvania, and I was going to do the math. He's going to go to Pennsylvania and Georgia. And that would give him a 278 to 260 electoral college win over Biden.
And he would still lose the popular vote, by the way.
Yeah, he'd still lose the popular vote.
Hey, let me ask you. Yeah, let me ask, because he's what's he behind? 6 million votes?
I thought it was closer to 7 last I heard.
Let me ask you this: if this happens, don't you think that the Justice Department will step in on behalf of the American people to make sure all the ballots are counted?
Right. Yeah, not the Bill Barr Justice Department.
I think that bastion and that fighter for justice for all and equal justice under the law, Bill Barr, will be fighting on behalf of the people?
Absolutely not. I think what he'll do is he'll defend Trump as he's tried to do before. He's tried to use the Justice Department to intercede on Trump's behalf specifically, even though the Justice Department isn't the president's lawyer or lawyers, and several lifetime long-term serving Justice Department members have resigned over that fact. I think that they'll defend what's going on. They'll say it was a legal dispute that was decided fairly, and that Trump is now the president, and we should all rally behind him. And
we should respect the rule of law, right?
Respect the rule of law, right? And then the day after, if not on inauguration day, he'll move to have at least Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and maybe others arrested for what he perceives as, their crimes.
Yeah. It's scary. I know we're hypothesizing a lot here, but it's scary because these are things that in the past we would have thought were a long way off and were really fringe ideas, but I don't put anything past this guy. I was actually shocked, and I think this is, and again, my theory alone here, but I think this is why we've heard Christopher Wray's name mentioned so much, and we've heard Gina Haspel's name mentioned, and even Bill Barr has been mentioned by Trump, how disappointed he was in them and their actions before the election, because I was honestly shocked that the absentee ballots were ever counted.
Right.
I actually thought that those ballots would be confiscated and say due to a legal case they've been confiscated, and they would be confiscated and destroyed.
Right.
So I'm shocked that we even have a count of those.
Well, everybody that has spoken that has anything to do with just about any election across the country has said that these were basically the safest elections we've ever had in our nation's history. In fact, that went so smoothly that a lot of states that don't normally do mail-in voting like we do here in Colorado are now talking about going to that as their main system of voting in the future. And
Right.
so if the Supreme Court does what we expect it to do, and like I said, I sure hope that they don't, then states will probably rethink that, and it'll set us back 50 years in terms of voting.
Well, and I think people, I know you and I don't forget it, and I know a lot of the people that are affected by it don't forget it, but I think there's a lot of people that are discounting the fact, again, we're under a global pandemic,
Right.
where everybody having to vote on the same day, it was not an option for a lot of people due to health reasons.
Right.
So it's a scary time.
Well,
Go ahead.
we were talking about, before we came on, we were talking about, you look at other countries like, Nigeria is in turmoil right now, and Nicaragua, and places that you think are third world countries that have all these problems. Their elections are rigged, and people. Well, even just look at Russia. If you stand up to Putin and it looks like you have a decent chance of maybe winning election, you get poisoned.
Or lock them up, right? Lock them up.
Or they get locked up and tortured, right? And so, 30 years ago, Americans decried that, and the caveat was, well, that's over there, that could never happen here. And now here we are on the cusp of that very thing happening here, and it's going to come down to how 5 people on the Supreme Court cast their votes. And if one of them does not have a backbone and does not vote with well, actually, it's going to come down to 2, because John Roberts, even though he's sided with the liberals lately, he's no lock. So you need 2 votes. You need 2 of those other 6 justices to basically say, this is wrong. What the Trump administration is trying to do is wrong. The elections were run fairly by the states. The people voted, and Trump needs to accept it and, get the hell out of the White House. But whether we get those 2 votes or not remains to be seen.
Roberts has been, there's a lot of theories about why he's been voting the way he's been voting, because he's got a lot of case history in the past that's kind of gone against some of his votes that he's done on the Supreme Court. But he's definitely, if nothing else, he's an institutionalist, and he's recognized that. And it's so funny. It's so funny to me that during the confirmation hearings, what do we hear from the right wing? Oh, you can't politicize a Supreme Court nomination, right? You can't politicize a Supreme Court nomination. The politics should be out of it. Then the minute they get on the court, they want to politicize everything.
Right.
They want to make it a political institution once they're confirmed, but the process shouldn't be a political process.
Right.
Because Roberts has been pretty firm on things that the court should not step up and try to do the job of a legislature. And that's what he said in the arguments over ACA a couple weeks ago. Was he said that he felt like if the Republicans felt that strongly that the ACA should be overturned because the individual mandate had been taken out of it, then they should have passed it without the ACA and gone through they should have struck the whole thing down themselves and done it legislatively and gotten the votes to do it. Right. But they didn't do that. Now they wanted the court to do it for them.
Right. And the reason they want them to do that is because then they have cover. They can say, well, we didn't do it. The Supreme Court did it. And, they're up there for life, and there's nothing we can do to fix that.
It was a poorly written law. It was poorly designed,
Right.
Something sparked a little interest in me. Let me throw another theory at you, if you will. What also happened a week, let's see, was it a week ago? My days are starting to run. I believe it was earlier this week. It was Tuesday night or Wednesday night. It was Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve. That's when we got a tweet from the current occupant of the White House that stated that Lieutenant General Michael Flynn was receiving a full and unconditional pardon for all of his crimes. Do you think that could possibly be a message to others to say, if you help me in this election crisis, just know that I'm here for you?
Well, yeah, it could be. But let me ask you this, and nothing's really coming to my mind, and I'm hoping it's already in yours. Who could help him in this crisis that he could give a pardon to?
I mean, there could be that could be, again, that could be folks at the Justice Department that could interfere. That could be people at the, you know,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
it could be Attorney General, could be anybody. But to me, he's been very strategic with his pardons to say, you know, uh, he's timed them out, the personal pardons that he's done. The way he commuted Roger Stone's sentence but didn't pardon him
right,
was kind of like, there's still a little bit of carrot I want to dangle here in front of him. And
right.
so I wouldn't put anything past this guy. He's fighting for his life, and I don't mean that medically. I mean that from a criminality standpoint,
Right.
because he's already asked questions about pardoning himself, and what does he need to do to pardon himself, and is it legal? Is it not? For him to issue a pardon, does he need to resign and have Mike Pence pardon him for a day? All the different considerations. He's already been having those kinds of conversations about it. But those, again, should be noted that pardons only apply to federal law, not to state law.
Right. Yeah. So he would still face those charges in New York.
So where do we go from here? What's the next step? Have they appealed this to the Supreme Court yet?
Well, they've announced that they will. So I was looking today because a lot of times, sometimes on Sundays, the Supreme Court will announce that they've agreed to hear a case, and then it'll show up on the Monday docket. But so far, I haven't seen that. Now the day's still young, so they've still got some time. But my assumption is they'll file this for fast track emergency hearing on Monday. Sometime Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll get the hearing with the Supreme Court. That means they would probably rule either Wednesday or Thursday because of the nature of it. And so that puts us at the 3rd or the 4th of December.
Which
with
the
either
5th is when the votes have to be cast, right?
well, the 14th is when the electoral college votes. So they've actually got some time between now and then. And that's the important one. So once the electoral college casts their votes on the 14th, the die's cast and the president, it'll either be President Trump or President Biden on the 14th. And then the inauguration comes on the 20th of January. But the 14th is the election that really counts. I mean, all of us go to the polls and we think our vote counts, but it's really the election on the 14th that's the one that really matters. And there's all sorts of other things going on. I mean, they're trying to get the pro-Trump legislature in Pennsylvania to appoint Trump electors so that they cast the 20 votes for Trump. I mean, it's the sky's the limit as to what this guy's trying to do. So we've got about 15 more days to go to see how it's going to really turn out. And as we said before the election, it's going to be a bumpy ride to January, and it's still got some bumps to go. We're not out of the woods yet.
Agreed. Well, we shall see. And my hope would be that the Supreme Court wouldn't hear this case. They would let the state laws and the state courts have the final say on it.
Right.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, you need 5 votes for that to happen. So it takes 5 votes for the Supreme Court to hear it. And if you get 5 votes against it, then it doesn't make it onto the docket. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, hey, that pretty much covers that topic and takes us to the conclusion of another episode of the GD Report. Encourage everybody, if you're going out, please wear a mask.
Right.
It's not about, I'm so tired of hearing people say, it's my freedom, it's my freedom. It's about you respecting other people,
Right.
Not just about yourself. And sometimes we're called upon to do things that are selfless as opposed to selfish. So please wear a mask, take precautions. If you're in the state of Georgia, you've got a big election coming up, and we'll talk about that more soon, I'm sure. Yeah. Everybody take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good night, everybody. All right, that was pretty cool.
About 25 minutes.